I've built the first module of my new model railroad. This module is a T-track end cap module by Klawndykes. You saw me build this module a little while back. I'll link the module down below and the video where I built it at the end of this video. We're making this module to appear that the tracks cut through the rolling hills of western North Carolina. We're going to start with some Sculptamold. Sculptamold is an amazing material that you can easily mold into any landscape the shape that you want. All you do is mix it up in some water and apply. I drew my area that I wanted to apply with a pen and then mix it up and apply the Sculptamold. Now, one thing I would do differently is I would put some paper or cardboard as the base structure of the hills and then apply the Sculptamold on top, because this stuff is quite heavy. Kind of think of like a plaster level of heavy. Now, this is noted for next time. Once I have applied the Sculptamold, I let it dry. Another reason to use a different structure material is that all of the Sculptamold took 2 days to fully dry. Next, I paint the entire top of the module, and I'm able to make quick work of this by taking it outside and spray painting it. This is another thing that I like about modules. They're easy to spray paint because you can just take them outside into a safe space. Whether if you have a permanent layout, you're kind of limited on your use of spray paint because of the fumes. I did tape the track to protect it. You can spray paint it if you want, but I did not. If you do, just remember to clean those rails thoroughly. Get the tops of those rails and get the connection points between the next module, because you don't want any electrical outages with it. Once that is dry, I can work on the track. One of the big drawbacks of Kato Unitrack is that it takes more work to make look truly realistic. That said, it can totally be done. I start by putting some white glue on the side of the roadbed. I then put some Woodland Scenics fine grade ballast on the spot that I glued. Note that I did not put it on top of the track. That is for later. I used some various brushes to neaten up the ballast, and now I can do the top. This is where Kato track gets a little bit tedious if you want it to look right. I take a bamboo skewer and dip it in the glue and put a tiny dot on the spots in between the ties. Now, you don't have to use a bamboo skewer. I like using it. You can use something like a micro brush as well. I also put glue down in between the ends of the ties on the outside of the rails as well. This is really where working on a module versus an entire layout really shines. It could take you an hour to do an entire module this way, whereas an entire layout's going to take a lot longer. I then sprinkle the ballast on top of the track. I then use a soft bristle brush to spread the ballast between the ties. You may need to practice this, as you can clump it with the glue and you'll need to be gentle. That's why you don't want to use too much glue in between the track. I then use my finger to smooth out the ballast, and you don't want to press too hard, just kind of use it to get it off the top of the ties, and that's going to help you out in a big way. Any ballast left on top, I use the blunt sides of a utility knife to scrape off the tops of the ties. You'll want to give as much as you can off the top of the ties and from inside the web of the rail, which is the little skinny part of the rail. The utility knife or a good hobby knife can help with this. Take your time and do this right. You will not regret it. By slowing down and making sure everything looks right, you're going to have a fantastic end product. Once I am done, I soak the ballast with a 91% isopropyl alcohol. This is to break the surface tension and let the glue seep into all of the scenic material. Now, you can get away with using 70%. I've used 70% IPA in the past and it's been fine, but that's about as low as I would go. 90% and higher is really, really good for this. It also dries pretty quick too. I then cover everything with my DIY scenic cement, which is basically just a white glue and water mixture, and I let it dry overnight. Now that I have the track done, it's time to add some realism. One of the best things you can do to make model railroad track more realistic is to make it dirty in the middle, especially mainline tracks. The middle of railroad tracks gets dirty from all the dirt and grime that falls off trains as they pass. This could be material from the bottoms of hopper cars, oil and grime from locomotives, anything really. The thing that it does is it makes the middle of the rails darker. To accomplish this, I'm going to be grinding up some Pastel Chalks and applying them to the tracks. I grab a large piece of mid-grade sandpaper, so about 120 grit, and I grind these pastels into a fine powder. I start with brown and then go to black. Once I have grinded them, I use a soft bristle brush to apply the powder to the track. I do this in kind of a gentle way where I will just literally kind of tap it and then slowly work it back and forth until I actually am touching, and then I spread it, because if you don't, it can kind of do like an uneven splotching. I did do a little bit of brown at the beginning, but really what made it pop was the black, and I really laid that on. This simple thing just really makes the rails pop, and it just makes it's such a simple thing that you can do, and it makes it look so much better. Next, it was time for the Scenic Bas. I start by coating the entire module that does not have track on it with white glue. I then spread some Woodland Scenics blended turf earth blend all over it, covering as much as I can. Now note that I did not get the glue coating too close to the track, and when I spread the scenery at the track, I hold the cap away from the track so that I get a fairly crisp line where the scenery meets the ballast. This is also so that I get a nice crisp line of track with the ballast and everything, and keeping the glue off means that even if I do mess up, that I will be able to fix it pretty easily. Once that was done, I realized that I had some spots of plastic showing through from the Kato Unitrack, so I fixed those with some additional light ballasting, let those dry, and then weathered those spots as well. And that was a little bit just more of the powder and the same thing that you just saw. Once I have covered the entire layout, I come back with some darker green fine turf and sprinkle it unevenly over the earth blend. This gives the look of uneven vegetation because in nature, not everything is a uniform green. I then come back and then lightly sprinkle some lighter green fine turf over it to get a little bit of contrast, and that makes it pop a little bit more. Once this is done, I soak the entire module in IPA and scenic cement and let it dry overnight. Kind of getting a theme of here of when in doubt, let it dry overnight. Now for the fun part. We're going to build a section of forest on this module. Now in the past for this, you've seen me use something like super trees and puffball trees for this, and those are fantastic and great ways to make forest canopies. And I really do love them, but I wanted to use something that was a little bit easier to find for people and comes in more of a starter kit type thing. And if you're just beginning, it is a little bit easier to use than super trees can be. And that is Woodland Scenics Forest Canopy. It comes with dry sedum versus the seafoam of super trees. It also comes with scenic cement and the coarse turf needed to coat the trees. And a box is about $20, and for this module I'm going to be using 2 boxes to make the entire module covered in trees for what I want. One is going to be the medium green forest canopy and one is going to be the dark green forest canopy. This product is multi-scale, so I start by breaking the sedum stems into smaller pieces that will fit better with in-scale. Remember that you want to vary the size of your trees you are making. Once that is done, I can start turning these stems into trees. Now through various trial and error, through various attempts, I have come up with a 3-container system for making trees like this. One contains the scenic cement, one has all of the flocking material, and one is empty. I start by dunking the tree in the scenic cement and giving it good and covered with it from about the top to about 1/3 to halfway down. I then hold it over the empty container and either sprinkle or pour the flocking material over the tree. This method really allows for speed and a reduction of waste. Less material is lost to excess glue, and you can catch the material for easy reuse. Once one container is empty, the container's reverse rolls and you go back and forth until you are out of material. Then it's just rinse and repeat for making trees. For placing trees, I use a pin vise with a drill bit, the approximate size of the average tree. I just kind of figure that out and eyeball it, and then drill holes in either clusters of 3 or 5. Odd numbers are good for giving a sense of randomness when you're putting in trees. When I'm ready to place the tree, I put some white glue on the hole that I drilled and stick the tree in. Then I just do that over and over and over and over and over again until I have the coverage that I want. Okay, we are nearly done. The last thing we need to do is add some unkempt vegetation on the banks coming down from the forest to the track. I put some white glue in the spots that I'm working on. I start off by using some of the leftover clumps that were created from making the trees that are in the Tupperware containers. This is just where some glue dripped down and they kind of clump together, and it's kind of a happy accident where some of the branches broke off and give us this really good look of just unkempt vegetation and just a natural look that's kind of hard to achieve when you're really trying to make it yourself. Once I've used up all of that, I switched to using Woodland Scenics foliage mats. These are mats of foliage material that you can tear apart and shape. They're great for things like overgrowth and kudzu too. I start ripping the sheets apart while holding them inside one of the Tupperware containers so that they catch any of the material that falls off, which will become useful later, so keep watching for that. I apply it to various places using white glue to hold it in. Now this stuff can be a bit tricky and you can look like you have a hard edge of it. When you see one and you don't like it, just put your finger down and pull the edge apart and really just tease it into the shape you like. You also want to get it good and tucked in under the trees so that it looks like it doesn't just stop at the trees. You want to just kind of push it in there underneath those trees. Okay, I've got all of the foliage mats in place and I have all of the excess that fell off during the process in my Tupperware. I'm going to spread this along the edges and in between so that it can blend the mats with the rest of the scenery and make it look more natural. Once I have everything in place, I soak the entire module with IPA, and since this is a mobile module, I go a little overboard on the scenic cement, just to make sure that everything holds in place. And now, I can let it dry. And here is the final result. Now this is the first module of my new layout. If you want to check out the layout plan, including its various phases, I have that linked right over here. You can definitely check that out. Thank you all so much for watching. Until next time, I'm Jimmy from the DIY and Digital. Stay safe, be kind, and happy railroading.